Annie Briscoe is on the telephone with us this morning, representing the IRNA, the PSEA. And let's say good morning. How are you today?
Hi, good morning. Great. Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you on the line with us here today. So let's get into some of the issues with the IRNA today. First of all, I believe there was a negotiation schedule yesterday. Did that happen?
That did happen, yes. We had a negotiation session that was scheduled for 4 p.m. Thursday, the 29th, and IRMC actually requested that we move that earlier into the day, so the Nurses Union accommodated that request, and we met at 10 a.m. yesterday, Thursday, the 29th. Yeah. We have another session scheduled for today as well at 4 p.m.
Take us inside one of those sessions. What's the typical length for those talks, for a single session?
Wow, that is a great question, and there truly is no answer to that question.
Oh, yeah?
It really depends. So in the realm of bargaining, negotiation sessions can last hours and hours and hours. And what we saw yesterday was a much shorter session where the Indiana nurses put forward their proposal. So we had done a comprehensive proposal, which looks at, different items that have been proposed versus, say, a complete package. So when the Nurses Union put forward their proposal, the hospital management reviewed it, took time to caucus, and that's very common for either side to kind of excuse themselves, then go into a private room and discuss among themselves as the negotiating team to review. So I want to say it was about a half an hour or so that the IRMC management did caucus, and they returned to the room and really, just very straightforward, said they would review and provide us with their counter proposal today. Mm-hmm. So, that's not terribly uncommon. I think we are very hopeful in this bargaining process that we will truly do some negotiations back and forth, but sometimes bargaining as it is can be as simple as, a proposal given to one side of the table, and then they take time to review it and give their counter proposal the next time around. So that's what we're seeing here.
One of the things that we often hear when contract talks are going on, and obviously they're behind closed doors and between negotiating teams that have been appointed by each of the two sides, is we hear the term talks have broken down or progress has been made. Is there a way that you could respond to yesterday's talks and what the tenor is of it all?
Yeah, I understand your question. I think the best way I can respond to that is to say that we'll find out today, to be honest with you. What IRNA did, our nurses union, looked at the proposals that have gone back and forth from the start of our initial proposal to the hospital's latest proposal, and we really outlined some of our goals and some of the ways that we have compromised significantly since the beginning of our proposal. So what happens now is that we kind of wait to see what the hospital will come back with this afternoon. So I hope to be able to answer that question, later today. But at this point, we can't necessarily say that there's been progress because what we've done is provide our proposal, and we'll hear the hospital's counter proposal later today.
Oh, okay.
Now, I will say you're right in terms of the bargaining structure. So the nurses union, and this is very common for unions, they select individual members to serve on their negotiating team, and those members kind of represent the general membership at the bargaining table. What we're seeing with the nurses union here, because again, bargaining has been going on for months now, we're really seeing quite a united front with the entire membership. Yesterday's bargaining session, we saw nearly 150 members fill the room, so much so that they had to kind of take down the room dividers just to expand the space because there were so many members there. Now, again, these aren't necessarily people on the bargaining team. These are members who are showing up to observe and witness. They do not participate in the bargaining process because they're not necessarily on the negotiating team, so they don't sit at the, at the literal table. They kind of sit in the background. They can observe and witness. And just kind of be there for the process in support of their negotiating team and in support of the bargaining process. So that's kind of brings you into the room. I mean, It was like a sea of red with our nurses who were all sitting, standing even, because it ended up being standing room only. There weren't enough chairs for all of our members who were there. Of course, we had some members even who bring their kids, their babies in because they want to be there. They want to be part of that process. They want to see for themselves. And truly, our negotiating team is top-notch. They are very available to their members. They answer questions around the clock, literally, and they really are representing, that the sense of the general membership. I know that's something that I've seen in some coverage with hospital statements that have been a bit misleading, indicating that, the union's only a handful of people. But when you have a bargaining session like we saw yesterday with 150 members, packing the room to show support, show solidarity for their negotiation teams, I think that really speaks volumes just to the amount of support that our members, our nurses on the negotiating team has.
I think that's an interesting way to put that because, we might have the impression, and certainly from the outside looking in, I'm sure you understand, we have the impression that you have a team of however many members sitting on one side of the table and others on the other side, and the doors are closed and they're hammering things out, and then you're taking stuff to your side and they're taking stuff to their side, and they're discussing further. But to actually place them into room and to hear the conversations that are going on around the table, that's an interesting dynamic to
now, I will
all of
say
that.
it's not open to the public, so
sure.
A general community member can't walk into the bargaining session. But as far as our IRNA members, they are welcome to observe and witness the bargaining process, and that's a decision that our executive officers and our negotiating team made. They truly, truly want to represent, and I think they're doing a great job representing the interests of the general membership, and so they're really inviting our members into that process to again, be able to observe, be able to witness, and then once bargaining stops, they're welcome to have discussions among themselves as the larger group. But while the administrators are in the room and while the bargaining process is going on, it is our negotiating team, and I want to say it's 8 or 9 individuals at the table who are nurses, who are members, who are participating in that bargaining process.
Annie Briscoe is with
across the table from the hospital management. And of course, we have our PSEA Uniserv as well there supporting our negotiating team.
Annie Briscoe with us as we talk with her as a representative of the Indiana Registered Nurse Association in contract talks with the Indiana Regional Medical Center. Now, the nurses have not been on the job this week. We're pretty well aware of how that issue has unfolded, but anticipated back in the hospital tomorrow, yes?
I'm sorry, anticipating returning tomorrow?
Yes.
7 a.m. Saturday, December 1st. I'm sorry, it's just kind of difficult keeping track of days this week. But yeah, 7 a.m. tomorrow, Saturday, December 1st, our nurses will be back on the job at full capacity. Mm-hmm. And we have offered, our intention was to do the one-day strike on Monday. We offered to return to work at Tuesday at 7:01, or 7 a.m. And we all know, the process that has unfolded. The hospital did call back some of our members. They called back our CRNAs to come in earlier and with notice that the entire IRNA nursing staff will be back on Saturday, tomorrow.
I'm sure the word that most people are dreading hearing and hoping not to hear is the word impasse, and that talks just have reached the point where you need to call in an independent arbitrator or a state arbitrator to help with the talks, and binding arbitration becomes a part, or non-binding arbitration. Take me into your position as to how the talks you're expecting them to progress over the course of the next several weeks or a month or more. How does the union see it all playing out?
Well, it is very difficult to predict in these circumstances because things can change day to day, or rather, I should say, bargaining session to bargaining session. Mm-hmm. And so, like I said, we are hopeful that we put forward a proposal that reflects some compromises and that reflects a spirit of cooperation to move forward towards an agreement. So all we can do at this point is truly hope that IRMC shares in that spirit of cooperation and that willingness to compromise and reach a fair contract for our nurses, for our patients, for our hospital. And we will find out today at 4 p.m. when they provide us with their counter proposal.
Mm-hmm. And even when back on the job, can we expect that we'll still see some picketing going on?
You know what? I will say, as far as our members, that is not likely once we return to work. However, we have seen such an outpouring of community support. In fact, there's even a community rally this evening in support of our nurses that was planned completely independently just by community members who understand the issue and really want to see the hospital treating our nurses fairly. So as far as any efforts being planned by community members independently, I can't speak to that beyond this evening's rally that's planned for 5 p.m. at IRMC Park. But what I can say is, you know, our nurses' intention was never to go on strike. Our nurses' intention has always been and remains to get a fair contract for our members. So we are